President Trump is seeing a surge in his approval ratings. We'll get into why that may be, so stick around. Let's check it out.
I think it's time for a bit of a reality check, right? We were going to late April. Donald Trump's approval rating, his net approval seemed to be falling. He seemed to be adios, amigos. People were writing his political obituary. He is rising from the dead. Look at this. Hello, Trump's net approval rating among voters. This is the Reuters Ipsos polling. Look at this. In late April, he was 8 points underwater. But look at where he was in the most recent poll among voters. He's up 7 points to a -1 point net favorability rating. This is not the picture I think a lot of people were thinking that we would be painting in late April. I think a lot of people expected his approval rate to keep dropping, but at least according to Reuters Ipsos, it's in fact rising.
Put this then in a larger perspective, Harry.
Yeah, okay. So, this is just one poll, right? But let's take a look across an aggregate of polls. What are we seeing here? And I want to compare both to where Donald Trump is now versus where he was in late April, as well as where he was at this point in term number one. What you see is at -6 points, he is a little bit worse off than he is in the Ipsos Reuters polling, but he is considerably better than he was in late April when he was 9 points underwater. And more than that, look at this. He's nearly 10 points better than he was back in May 16th of 2017 in his first term. So what we see is Donald Trump's not just doing better than he was doing in late April of 2025. He's doing considerably better than he was doing at this point in term number one, about 10 points better than he was doing at this point in term number one.
In a vacuum, -6 isn't good, but in Trumpian terms, against himself, it's actually a pretty good position for him to be in politically compared to himself.
Exactly right. This is considerably higher than he has traditionally been.
So the big question here is why, Harry? Why did it bottom out? Why might it be rising?
Okay, why? Well, take a look at the chance of a recession. It's actually falling. The chance of a recession is falling. In late April, it was 60% according to J.P. Morgan. Look at where it is now. It's less than 50%. How about Goldman Sachs? You see the same thing. 45%, now falling to 35%. The bottom line is, it is the economy, the economy, the economy. As the chance of a recession has fallen, as the trade wars have kind of collapsed a little bit, at least with China, Trump trying to make a deal, we do see that. I do think that the voters are responding to this, and therefore we're seeing Trump's approval rating going up.
The tariffs were really hurting him, and he backed off, and it may be helping him politically now.
Sometimes Donald Trump has some pretty good political instincts.
Harry, thank you very much.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of things starting to take fold within the administration, and it's very positive for the country. So before we get into that, I want to talk about some of the polls here. This is from Newsmax. 4 polls show Trump with strong approval ratings. Donald Trump's trip last week to the Middle East and his administration's recent progress on trade agreements appear to have boosted his perception among American voters, with 4 national polls showing his favorability rating above 47%, consistent with the level following his inauguration. Polls released Monday by morning consultant Rasmussen Reports and Harvard Capps Harris showed Trump's approval rating at 48, 49, and 47% respectively, and Daily Mail JL Partners poll released Sunday showed his approval ratings at 50%. I mean, those are solid numbers. Despite the doom and gloom headlines from news organizations, the American people actually feel great about the direction of the country, White House Principal Deputy Secretary and Senior Advisor Harrison Fields told Newsmax. What's the hate? We're undoing the wildly unpopular agenda of the previous office holder, uprooting waste, fraud, and abuse, and chugging along the great American comeback. The Daily Mail poll was conducted May 13th through 14th among over 1,000 registered voters with a margin of error of 3.1 plus minus 3.1 percentage points. Trump's approval rating is up 5 percentage points from a poll taken 100 days into his second term nearly 3 weeks ago. The most important thing is this shows that Trump can bounce back when his voters waver. People who were concerned about the sense of direction and strength after tariffs reversals are now back on board as they see the president doing what they feel he does best, making deals. Yeah, these are all things that are playing a factor in the rise we're seeing in his approval ratings. The Morning Consultant poll showed Trump's highest approval rating since mid-March after reaching a low of 45% in April. His disapproval rating of 50% dropped 3 percentage points from late April. Trump's approval rating in the Harvard-Harris poll reached 52% in February and hasn't dipped below 47% since. Although it was 48% in April poll, the number of those who strongly approve jumped to 30% from 28%. Only 47% disapprove of his performance, while 5% responded don't know. The majority of Trump's policies continue to see strong support, especially on immigration and government efficiency. Even though there is concern Trump has exceeded guardrails with executive orders and tariffs, if he is able to successfully lower the price of prescription drugs and hold down the fort on inflation, he will be able to unlock 10% more of voters in his approval ratings. Interesting. So this is from Real Clear Polling. As you can see a graph here, shortly after his inauguration, he was above 50%. Then you started to see it dip a little bit. They started to be pretty even, 48% approval rating. And then as we go into April, when the trade war was extremely hot, when he was extremely hot with the tariff situation, he dipped down to 45%. And we're seeing deals being made. We're seeing countries come to the table, and you're starting to see that gap close quite a bit. Let's take a look at some other things. Egg prices plummet under Trump administration, the biggest monthly drop in 40 years. It's from Western Journal. And look, we're seeing egg prices drop. The trade wars, we're seeing the 90-day pause on China. We're seeing the slash in the amount of tariffs, the percentage in tariffs from 145 down to 30% on China, to see if they can make a deal. The UK has come to the table. There's a framework for a trade deal has been made. And I think people are really starting to trust the president in his agenda with the trade situation. The stock market is bouncing back nicely. We saw the Dow Jones dip down to about 38,000 points. Now, as of right now, it's up to about 42,600. So we're seeing the S&P 500 see major gains. I think people are starting to feel more comfortable and more confident with where this administration is going with the agenda on taking America back from where it was under Joe Biden. And not to forget about the immigration front. He's doing an A+. I give him an A+ on immigration. The border secure. We're seeing record low crossings at the border, about 7,000 a month. The last reported number is 8,000 before that. Deportations are ramping up. A lot of criminal illegal aliens are being deported. The worst of the worst. I'm not talking about just somebody who crossed the border to get a job. I'm talking about violent gang members, MS-13, TDA members. They're being deported, and the streets are becoming safer because of it. And I think that people are seeing him very aggressively carry out his agenda, and they're liking what they're seeing. Not everybody, as you see, he's still, hovering around high 40s, the percentage points as far as approval rating is concerned. So you're going to have a large swath of the country who doesn't approve of what he's doing. So let's get back to egg prices here. We're seeing a significant drop. This is the lowest drop in 41 years. The average price of a dozen grade A eggs declined to $5.12 last month, which is still too high, after reaching a record $6.23 in March, according to the Consumer Price Index. It was the first month-to-month drop in eggs since October 2024. Overall, the price of eggs fell to 12.7%, the steepest monthly decline since March 1984. However, on grade A eggs, the drop was 17.8%, which is an excellent sign. So things are starting to smooth out and take fold. Take a look at the U.S. jobs report for the month of April, reporting on the month for the month of April, I should say. U.S. payroll growth totals 177,000 in April, defying expectations. So we're seeing strong job growth, and if you take a deeper look into the numbers on the job front, a lot of the foreign-born workers are being taken out of the market. We're seeing an increase in American jobs because under Biden, the increase for foreign-born workers was huge. And American workers, it was actually, I think it was like a net loss for American workers under the Biden administration. We saw a lot of inflated numbers that are now being revised. It was like every month there was a strong jobs number that would come out, and then a month later, when when it was out of the public eye, oh, suddenly there was a decline in the numbers were revised downward to 40,000 less jobs than what were actually being reported. And then you take a look at for a certain quarter, if there were 400,000 jobs created, though that was also revised down to a negative loss. It was the third quarter of last year. We actually saw a decline of 1,000 jobs when it was reported that it was 399,000. So it was a lot of smoke and mirrors under the Biden administration with the jobs numbers. A lot of illegal immigrants were getting jobs, and those are being factored in. But now that we're seeing a lot of deportations taking place and people voluntarily leaving the country, we're starting to see more American-born workers get jobs. And that's what we want. I mean, American-born or American citizens, it doesn't matter. We don't want to see illegal aliens come into the country and blow up the job numbers and inflate the job numbers. We want these jobs to go to people who are born here or who are American citizens first. I mean, that's playing a huge factor in what we're seeing with the economy. We're starting to see Trump's agenda take forward with the foreign policy issue. His meeting with Vladimir Putin, meeting with Zelensky, the meeting we saw in Saudi Arabia, trying to get investments here in the United States. I think people are actually very impressed. The effort to stop the war in Ukraine. When that happens, that's going to be huge. That is going to be massive. If he gets a deal in with Vladimir Putin and Zelensky, I mean, I think that's why I think we're going to see an even bigger increase in his approval rating. If the job numbers keep going the way they are, and we're seeing the rise in the stock market, if it continues to go up as it has been over the past few weeks, a lot of those gains have been wiped out completely. I mean, a lot of those losses have been erased because of the gains in the stock market with the tariff deals. A lot of countries coming to the table, as I said, and we're seeing an American agenda, the America First agenda, really take fold. And if there is a deal, if there's a tax bill that's signed into law, a new tax bill, imagine what that's going to do for the stock market. I think just leading up to it, because they are making progress on it, there are some things that need to be worked out. But once it passes the House and then it goes into the Senate, I think even before a deal is made, you're going to see a dramatic rise in the stock market, because people are going to be feeling pretty optimistic about people getting a tax break. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. It's going to be huge. And we see the 2017 tax cuts permanently extended, because if that doesn't happen, then we're going to see a tax increase across the board on American citizens. So I think they will get these things worked out. And just imagine if after year one, we see 600 to 800,000 deportations, record low border crossings, tax bills signed into law, trade deals made, the war in Ukraine stopped. I mean, that's going to be a hugely successful first year for President Trump. And then we're seeing other things as well on the culture war. With men playing in women's sports, we're seeing progress on that. Executive orders signed. Big things are happening. So I think this is only going to get better. I think this is what the American people voted for. 77 million Americans voted for this agenda. And I think they're starting to see it take place right now. So we'll keep you posted. it's going to be bumpy at some point. There's going to be some bumps along the road, but now over 100 days in, it's starting to look better. And I think the American people are feeling safer. We're seeing the DOJ take bold, swift action against pedophiles. They're fighting crime. This is what the people want. They want safe streets and they want a strong economy. And they don't want foreign wars. They don't want to see any wars happening. So this is, I think, what we voted for, and we're starting to see that. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. I know that not everybody agrees with President Trump. 75 million people did vote against him. But yeah, let me know what you think, good or bad. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Take care.